mindset is not there, it's going to do nothing for them, okay? They're going to feel stuck and they're not going to be able to execute. So if you have some people in your downline, let me move this over here. And if I sniffle throughout the thing, I'm so sorry. So I'm trying not to get sick. So I'm working on that. So if you have people in your downline that have amazing tools and they really don't know how to put, you know, 2 and 2 together, and they just keep getting stuck, I feel that mindset is a huge thing for them. So if they don't get their mindset in the right place, they're never going to be able to execute with those tools that you're giving them. So we're going to start by asking, you know, the main question, which is, how do you perform at your peak state? I mean, what is your peak state? That's what I'm going to teach you tonight. How do you perform at your peak state? Okay. And how do you operate from there? How do you achieve a peak state, and how do you operate from there? Because when you're operating at your peak state is where you're going to get the best results. Okay. So in order to achieve your peak state, the first question you're going to have to answer is, what do you really want? Now think about that for 1 second. What do you really want? Most people have a general answer for that, okay? I want more money, you know, I want a bigger paycheck, I want a bigger home, I want a different car, I want to travel. But the reality is that that's not what they want, okay? So if someone says, I want more money, what they really mean to say is that they want more freedom or options that money is going to give them. So they're looking for a change in state, or the way they feel. So the way they feel when they do get that money, that freedom, you know, that ability to have more options is what they're looking for. They really don't want just a paper with an old dude's face on it that doesn't even live and looks super creepy. So that's not what they want. What they want is the outcome, the byproduct of what money is going to get them. What they want is the byproduct of that, what that home is going to get them, or traveling the world is going to get them. Okay. So everything you do in life is to either create pleasure, right, and avoid pain. So everything you do in life is to create pleasure or a pleasurable outcome. Nobody wants pain. Nobody goes into a situation going, oh, this is going to be painful. I love it. That's not how that goes, right? So think about this for a minute. When you react instead of respond, okay, which I've learned that the hard way. When you react instead of respond, okay, what state are you working out of? What state are you operating out of? Your outcome, meaning what you respond, if either you react or you respond, is going to be dictated by the state you're in. For example, when I'm tired, there's 2 things that can happen. I get really hilarious, okay, like legit hilarious. So if you see a ton of posts from me on Facebook that are just like cracking you up, I'm really tired. Or people really annoy me, like one of the 2. I'm just being real. Respect is a huge thing for me. So when people are very disrespectful, especially on my wall, which is my territory, my hub, when people are disrespectful, I react instead of respond. When I am tired, when the state I am in, it is not my peak state, I'm going to react. I've learned that about me. So now I got to pull it back and say, okay, Lighty, I know for a fact that the state I am in is not my peak state. So I know that I'm going to react to this. So now I've got to rein it in and say I cannot react. I have to respond. So how do I cross that bridge and respond instead of react when I am not at my peak state? We're going to go over that, okay? Choices are determined by the state you are in. The choices you make, think about that, are determined by the state you are in. If you're really, really tired, your choices are not going to be the best choices because your mental game is not where it should be, okay? What determines your state? Your mindset, not your capabilities. Your state is determined by your mindset, not your capabilities. How or what you think about something will determine the state you will be in about that certain thing. For example, if you're absolutely terrified of public speaking, right, and you are about to go and speak in public, if you associate public speaking with a terrible, terrible experience, okay, then your state isn't going to be optimal. You're not going to operate out of your peak state. So whatever it is that you associate or what you think about, whether it be a circumstance in your life or whether it be a thing in your life, whatever you associate with it, whether you associate pleasure or pain, that is going to determine the state you're in. Okay. Think about this. When you say, I can sign anybody, nobody's signing up with me, nobody's buying my products, nobody's becoming business partner, you become a self-fulfilling prophecy because the state you're operating on or in, it is out of dread. It is out of work. It is out of, I have to do this because I have to provide for my family. But I'm not there. I'm operating out of a state of desperation instead of in my gifts and my abilities and my peak state. You have the same abilities, but you behave differently when you're in a funk or when you are in a role. Think about that. You have the same abilities. So when I am working out of a funk, like I sometimes did in December, because I was growing spiritually. When I'm operating out of a funk, I don't acquire supernatural abilities. I have the same exact abilities that the month where I signed, 350 people. It's the same abilities, but I'm operating in a different way. So when I'm operating out of my peak state, that's where you see my best results. That's where you see me working out of my gifts and my abilities and my passion. That's where I'm going to show up my best. But when I'm working out of my funk, it isn't because I somehow don't have the abilities I had the previous month. It has everything to do with my state of mind. So that's what I want you to think about. Okay. How do you get into your peak state? Okay. So how do we do that? First of all, you have to manage your emotional state. You have to manage your emotional state. You cannot allow emotions to run with you and determine how your day, how your month, how your week, how your year is going to go. What determines your emotional state? Is it determined by what others think of you? Is that what determines your emotional state? Is it determined by success, whether you succeed or you fail? Did you think last month was a failure for you? Is that what's going to determine how you behave this coming month because you're already feeling like a failure? Is it determined by relationships? Is there somebody in your life that is determining the state you are in emotionally? You need to address that codependency in your life first to own your emotional state. If anything outside of yourself determines the state you are in, the emotional state you are in, that is called codependency. And if you're codependent on anything, okay, anything outside physical realm, you're not going to be successful because this is how your emotional state is going to go. When everything's going good and you're successful, then you're at your peak state. If it's not, oh, you know what, the whole world ended. If that person that you bank your emotional state in doesn't kind of like you or isn't okay with you right now, then your emotional state is not there. You're depressed. You're anxious. That's what codependency is. So what is determining your emotional state? No matter what happens in your life, you are in control of your emotional state. I wish they would have taught this in elementary school, middle school, high school, any school. Can we just have our children know that they're in control of their emotional state? I teach this to my children all the time. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to be sad. It is okay to feel whatever emotions you're going to feel. What it is not okay is operating out of those emotions. So we need to sit down. We need to discuss why you're feeling this way, right? And then we can work from that. But what I do not allow my children to do is operate out of secondary emotions. So get your emotions in control. You can control them. Okay, so we're going to go over a little bit of what you can do to control that. Okay. Here's an example of that, okay? Think about famous people that are complete train wrecks. They have all the money in the world, they have all the fame in the world, but guess what they missed? They missed the fact that they never learned to control their emotional state. Right now, you can think of at least 5 people that have everything in the world, and you've probably said yourself, if I had that much money, if I lived in that house, if I had that car, if I had that spouse, if I had whatever, I wouldn't be like that. I would be completely happy. Why can't they be happy? Fact of the matter is that money doesn't buy happiness. Neither do any material things. So what happens is that if you cannot control your emotional state when you're broke, you're not going to be able to control your emotional state when you have money. So either you learn this now to build an empire, or you learn this later on when you've lost friendships, relationships, money, business, because you never controlled your emotional state. You never learned to do that. So you're always operating out of your fears, out of your hang-ups, out of your issues. Think about that, because that is really, really powerful, and that's going to determine what is going to happen to you in the business. You have the power within yourself to say, today will be a great day. How many of you have woken up in the morning, right, and say, oh, what kind of day is it going to be today? You know, how am I feeling? You know, how do I feel today? Do I feel like it's going to be a good day? Like, am I feeling some sort of way? I've had to tell myself, no, girl, you're not going to allow your emotions, okay, control how today is going to be. I'm going to have a great day today because I have no reason not to. So I'm going to make the conscious choice to have a great day today and not become a victim of your circumstances and your emotional whims. That's why we're in the bind as a society we are right now, because nobody has taught us since we're children that you can control your emotional state. So everybody's going out of, on emotional whims. It has nothing to do with having self-control. It's just that it was never taught. So everyone goes, I don't feel like working the business today, so I'm not going to do it. Guess what? Nobody told you that you can control how you feel. I don't really feel like doing those, 100 follow-ups that I have to do, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to step to the next level of leadership with my team and make that kind of commitment because, I just don't feel like it. I'm really tired today. And it just never happens. Okay, there's 2 ways to change your state. I'm going to show you what those are. One of them is to control your body. We're going to go over that. I'm going to have you do an exercise while you're watching. It's going to be super fun. And 2, you can control your mental focus. Okay. So 1, to feel anything in your life, it has to come through your nervous system. Okay. This is physiology. So if you can describe someone that is depressed, right? Someone that's depressed, their posture is going to be kind of like this, they're hunched over, faces down, they're breathing really shallow, and the facial muscles are slack, right? So someone that's depressed, you can tell they're depressed by their physiology. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. We're going to do a little bit of an exercise right now, okay? Are you ready for this exercise? Put your phone down. I know you're watching me on a phone or computer or whatever. Put your phone down on something so you can hear me. I want you to stand up tall. Okay. Or maybe if you're sitting down and you cannot get up, I want you to sit up straight, and I want you to sit tall, and I want you to put your shoulders back. So I want to teach you some of the power poses that I do. Okay, and there has been studies done that prove that this changes the chemical in your brain. Legit. This is not like hocus pocus stuff. I promise. Okay, so if you're standing up, stand up tall. If you're sitting down, sit up tall. Okay, I want you to look to the ceiling. I want you to smile from ear to ear. Okay, do it. And then I want you to breathe deeply. Breathe in. Breathe out while you're smiling from ear to ear. And I want you to try to get depressed without changing a single thing you're doing. I want you to try to get depressed without changing your posture, without changing your breathing, without changing your smile. Try to get depressed. Go ahead. You can't. You know why? Because you're tricking your body into thinking that you're in control. So if you are depressed, you're not operating out of your peak state, okay? And you're doing this. Yeah, it's going to be hilarious. It's okay. Nobody's watching. Nobody can see you. You can do it. Okay? That is one of the exercises that will get you in your peak state. Okay? So if you're having a really yucky, a little bit of a yucky day, and your day just kind of didn't start right or is not ending right, I do that. I mean, I sit and I'm like, you cannot get depressed. You can't. So another power pose that I do to trick my body into, okay, I'm in control of this. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's really good. The more you do it, the more your body gets used to it. That's why when I do any training, when I'm on stage and I've done trainings before, my shoulders are back. I'm very conscious of my posture because it's going to dictate if I'm in my peak state or if I'm not. If I'm in my peak state or if I'm not. I know, it's hilarious, but it works. It's amazing. Another thing that I do is I stand up and I open my arms, palms up, really high. I stand up and I look up. So if you do that and just hold it there for a minute, you can actually feel the change in your body. It is. You can actually feel the change in your body because your brain composition changes. So I started practicing this in 2016 at the beginning of the year because 2015 was literally the worst year I had in my life. We were making more money than we ever had before, but I went into a depression that I had never experienced in my entire life before, and I broke records in my company through that depression. It was crippling, to be honest with you. And when I went to my chiropractor and I got adjusted, he literally said to me, Lighty, your brain has been going and going and going for a really long time. This was after tests that I had done to me, and it has never stopped. It just has kept going. People's brains shut down at night, right? So you can get rest. Mine never did that. So I was sleeping like 2 hours a night because my brain was just going and going. My atlas was out and my brain was just out of control. The first time that I got my atlas adjusted, I slept like a baby that night. And I was feeling like I can think again. When I got out of his office, I told David, I cried because I felt like I could think again for that entire year. It was just my brain was going a million miles an hour. So I started looking into, okay, how do I get into my peak state out of this depression that I'm in? And this is how I started studying like power poses and, controlling your thoughts, which I knew. Good grief, I went to school for that, for counseling. So I knew what it was to control your thoughts and to control your emotions and all of that, but I really didn't understand the kind of power that it had. So it is absolutely amazing when you actually think of it, okay? So when you do that, when you do those power poses, you're actually sending a message to your brain that you're in control. So your emotions can no longer control you. You are now in control. So that is really important for you to do. No, I didn't have it then. If you want to change your mental state, it is not enough to control your thoughts, okay? Because think about this. If you want to change your mental state and you want to perform at your peak state, and you're always like this and coming out of a place of insecurity because that's where your posture is saying, your brain isn't getting the message. So it doesn't really matter how many times you tell yourself, think good thoughts, I'm going to control my thoughts, I'm going to get into my peak state, I'm going to do this, I can do this. I'm a champion, I'm going to get this done. If this is your body language, your brain didn't get the message. So we come here and we're telling our brain that I am in control now. So now I can send the message to my brain with my biochemistry that I am in control. I've got this. I'm winning. I'm going to crush my next goal, but I'm not coming from this place. Okay. You have to send a message to your nervous system. Okay. And it's about changing your posture and aligning with your mindset. So it isn't just your mindset. You have to change your posture to chemically send the message to your brain that there has been a mindset change. When you aren't at your peak state, change the way you move. Think about that. When you aren't at your peak state, change the way you move. You change your physiology and message to your brain by changing the way that you move. When people don't like the way they feel, okay, there's a few things they can do. They can go to drugs, they can go to alcohol, they can overeat because they don't feel the way they want to feel. So instead of changing anything in their physical body to attain the goal that they're trying to reach, they try to numb that to get physiological changes that drugs do and alcohol does and all these other things do without actual lasting change. Any change in your physical body is going to show up in your emotional state. Okay, so like I said, think about that exercise that you're doing. Okay, how did that change your emotional state? You know, can you get depressed, you know, changing your posture, being in a place that you're in control, having a power pose? Can you get depressed doing that? You can't. It's impossible. Okay, let me ask you something. To be successful in business, can you afford not to be in control of your emotional state? Think about that. To be successful in business, can you afford not to be in control of... That was a phone call. Not available. So, can you afford not to be in control of your emotional state if you're going to rock your business? You cannot afford that, okay? So in a scale of 0 to 10 of peak performance, okay, all lights are on, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to conquer, what is it that you need to be? Where is it that you need to be to succeed in business? Think about that. In a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being all lights are on, I'm ready to conquer, where do you need to be to succeed? In this profession, where do you need to be? You need to be at a 9 to 10. Why? Because you need to be ahead of the trends and in front of the pack. I always say that. In order to succeed in network marketing, you need to be ahead of the trends and in front of the pack. So in order to do that, you have to be at your peak state. All lights need to be on, because how are you going to market differently than your competition? How are you going to set yourself apart from everyone else that is doing the exact same thing you're doing? What is going to set you apart? You know what's going to set you apart? You working out at your peak state. You being a 9 and a 10 and bringing everything that everyone else is doing at a 3 and a 4 to a new level. That's how you're going to dominate in the business you're in, okay? So right now, you know that you need to be at a 9 and a 10 to succeed in business. Where are you in a scale from 0 to 10? In a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being I am there. I am optimal. I've reached my peak state. That doesn't mean that you're always there. You have to continue to work to get there time and time and time again. I mean, this is a forever, this is a lifetime deal. Okay, this is not you're going to achieve your peak state one day and then tomorrow is just going to come. It doesn't happen. It's going to take you time, and it's going to take exercise, and things are going to come into your life that are going to knock you down from your peak state. So where are you from a 0 to 10, 10 being I'm operating out of my peak state? Where are you right now? What is it that you need to do to get to a 9 and a 10? What is it that you need to do to get to a 9 or a 10? Think about that. Are you living out of your strength, your passion, and your gifting? Okay? Think about that. Are you living out of your strength, your passion, and your gifting? Emotion is created by motion. Emotion is created by motion. Tony Robbins said that. And I love that because when you're moving around, there's different chemicals that are happening, especially if you're power pose. There's neuroconnectors that are doing their job in your brain to make sure that the physiology aligns with the emotional state that you're going to go into. So think about that for a minute. How would you stand if you were unstoppable and powerful? Think about that for a minute. How would you stand or sit if you are unstoppable and powerful? If you believe that about yourself, I am unstoppable and I'm powerful, how would you sit and how would you stand? Is that the way you work your business? If you're sitting at a computer, you're holding your phone, this is what I've had to train myself to do because this is what I did all the time. So I'm coming out of a weak state right here. I'm operating out of a weak state. I'm not operating out of my strength. So how are you operating when you're working your business, when you're doing your computer, when you're talking to people? Think about that. What is your posture when you're talking to people? Okay, is it shoulders back? You're in control of the conversation. You're certain your posture is where it needs to be. Or are you talking to people, you know, you're not sure. Kind of maybe you're not having a good day. That could be online or that could be in real life, to be honest with you. Because when I'm talking to someone, the first thing I do when I'm talking to a prospect is check myself. Okay, so breathe. Because these are the exercises that are going to teach my brain that I need to be operating out of my peak. I don't teach my brain that it needs to be operating out of a peak state all the time. When nobody is looking, I'm just talking to prospects online. Guess what my body's going to do when I go on a stage or train or when I actually talk to somebody in real life? Guess what my body's going to do? My body's going to do exactly what I've trained my body to do. So if you don't think it's that important, and you're like this all the time, and you know, I don't know, you're talking on the phone, and I don't know, that's exactly what your body's gonna do. Because when you are in front of somebody, or you do have to speak somewhere, you do have to share your story, okay, then it's going to be awkward. Because you're gonna try to compose yourself and come from a power stance, and it's just, that's not what you do, because that's not what you've been practicing. So think about that. How to control your mental focus. Okay, so this is part 2. The one is control your body and your power poses and your posture. And number 2 is control your mental focus. Okay, so what do you think about? What are you focusing on? I don't have enough money. I'm not signing enough people. Not enough people are buying my products. I'm not physically where I want to be. I mean, there could be 10,000 things that you could be focusing on, right? Your emotional state will match your focus and your body language. So what are the things that you're choosing to focus on? And I'm going to show you, okay, how to change your mind to focus on the things that you need to be focusing on. Okay, how you behave, okay, how do you behave when you're winning? Think about it. Did you change what was, did you change your abilities and skills from one week to the other, from 1 month to the other? Is that what you did? How do you behave when you're winning? When you're winning, you are operating out of your peak state. You are, you're invincible. That's how you need to be every single day, okay? So is there a difference from when you are disappointed and when you're tired? How do you behave then, okay? Think about that for a minute. Control your thoughts. When you have a negative thought that is not producing a positive outcome, okay, you see it as a door. So think about this for a minute. This is an exercise where you're going to have to train your mind how to control your thoughts. Because we already have the power poses, we have the biochemistry together. We know how to get that done. But how do you control your mind so both of them can work together into helping you always operate out of your peak state, right? So you have to control your thoughts. And your thoughts, see your thoughts as doors. Okay, when there is a negative thought that comes into your mind, you have the option of opening the door or not opening the door. So what most people do is, I don't have enough money. That's a thought that just came into your brain. Let's just use that as an example. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. I'm never going to make enough money. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills next month. You know, I'm not really sure if this is even going to work for me. Like, you know, I've been doing this for this long and I'm not making that much money. And maybe I just didn't even get in the right opportunity. One thought can completely derail you and put you in a state of mind that you will not sign a fly, honey, because nobody wants to come near that with a 10-foot pole. So think about that for a minute. So if we say, I don't have any money, that's a thought that comes into your mind. You say, I'm not answering that door. You replace that thought with a positive thought, okay? I'm working toward my goal, and then you continue to get your mind off of this door that we didn't answer into the possibilities. What is it that we're doing to make sure that changes? What are the positive things that we can think about that that you've done in the past month, maybe that you did in the past year, some of the positive changes that you've seen in your team and your downline. You don't answer negative thoughts, because once you entertain and you engage, negative thoughts take root in your heart and they become your action. So a lot of you are spinning your wheels wondering, okay, what is the problem here? I'm doing everything that I can and I'm just not seeing those results. Well, how is your self-talk? Because I bet you're opening every single door that comes in there. Like, oh, I don't have any money yet. Oh, you know what? You didn't sign anybody last month. Well, you're just not there. You're stupid. You're dumb. You didn't do self-development enough. You don't know how to do this thing. You are lacking in every department. Honey, if you let those thoughts come in, you are nothing by the time those thoughts are done with you. You have no power. So many people associates the thoughts that they have with themselves. So if I have a negative thoughts, that's for me. That's me, you know? So I must answer that thought. I must rationalize with that thought. I don't. Because I control my thoughts. My thoughts do not control my emotional state. But how many people can say that? That takes practice. You don't engage, you don't entertain, and you don't answer those doors. You quickly learn how to bounce your thoughts. Like I teach my children to bounce their eyes from things that they should not be watching. You see, you bounce. And you need to learn how to answer the correct doors in your life. Because negative self-talk is not going to get you the positive result that you want in your life. You will never operate out of your peak state when you're answering negative thoughts. All of us are going to have negative thoughts. All of us are going to have fears that are going to creep in. The way that you answer those doors is going to determine whether that has a foothold in your life or if you're going to be victorious and you're going to control your emotional state. But so many times we come from a place of allowing our thoughts to run rampant in our minds. We have no idea why we're feeling as terrible as we are, especially when most of us have a really good life. And then you just wake up feeling day after day like there's something missing. And the something that is missing is the fact that you're not in control of your emotional state. If you want to operate out of your peak state, you need to control your emotional state. You need to control your body. It is not a one thing deal. It is not control one thought. It is a process that you're going to do and you're going to learn and you're going to continue to perfect until later on in life. Some people ask me, how do you do what you do? And you get so many haters and people that come against you, honey, because nobody can dictate my emotional state. You don't have that power. When you are in control of your emotional state, you can step into your calling. When you can control your emotional state, you can step into your gifting. When you control your emotional state, you operate out of a peak state because nothing around you can touch you with a 10-foot pole. You are literally powerful and unstoppable. That is what happens when you control your mind and when you control your physiology. So I'm going to open it up for questions right now. So if you have any questions, go ahead and comment below and I'll start answering those. I know it was a little bit of a heavy training, but there is no way around that, y'all. There is no candy coating operating out of your peak state. It takes work. So it's not an easy task. So go ahead and leave your questions below, and I'll start answering those. What are some of your favorite books on this topic? I have never read a book on this topic, to be honest with you. All of my self-development, first of all, has come from my Bible. Second of all, has come from, you know, people like John Maxwell, Danny Johnson, Seth Godin, who else? Oh, Jesus CEO is another self-development book that I absolutely love. But Operating at Your Peak State, the one book that I would recommend, because we're listening to it right now, is Tony Robbins' Awakening the Giant Within. Awakening the Giant or Within? I don't know. It's something like that. David got it on audiobooks, and that's what we're listening to. And I absolutely love it. So that's a book that I would recommend highly. I love that, Pamela. Pamela said, I love this phrase, where your focus goes, your energy flows. Absolutely. I love that. That is true. Do you have things you do in the morning to set yourself up in your peak state? Absolutely. I actually, the best thing that you can do in the morning is listen to 10 minutes of self-development, or, you know, an for me is classical music. Classical music puts me in that, you know, peak state that I want. So whatever it is for you that is going to get you into that stage, if you need a pep talk in the morning, but you cannot allow your thoughts to run as soon as you wake up in the morning without directing them through, you know, in the morning. So throughout the day, they stay on check. So that's the first 10 minutes of the day is going to dictate how the rest of the day is going to go. So if I wake up flustered, like, my day is going to be flustered. So many people I talk to have this wishy-washy emotional state. They don't have control. How do I emphasize but empower them to be more positive and not let their circumstances dictate their perspective without saying, yeah, that sucks, get over it? Brooke, that's a really good question. But here's what I want you to understand. You cannot change anybody or make them see that the state they're in is a really crappy state. You can't make that happen for somebody. They have to come to the place of understanding that. So giving them resources, giving them a video or something that is going to help empower them is really the only thing you can do. Because it's kind of like trying to help an alcoholic and they don't think they have a problem. You can't do that. You just can't. If they don't understand they have a problem, there's really nothing you can do to fix the problem they don't think they have. Think like a success, act like a success is so good. I love that. And that is so true. That's projecting where you want to be. So when I talk about social media, when I talk about working social media out of your strengths and out of your passions and your gifting and where you see yourself headed, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Whatever it is that you are projecting out there is what you're going to walk toward. But if every single day there is a negative connotation to your day, you're not winning, sister. Like that, you're not moving anywhere, because that's where you are and that's where you're going to stay. What are your favorite songs, gospel groups? So other than classical music, like, which is my everything. I love classical music. Other than classical music, I love Casting Crowns. I love, let me pull up my thingy-majigs. Hold on one second. I'll pull up my iTunes. So Jackie Velasquez is someone that I absolutely love, 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 love. Jackie Velasquez. Hillsong United is another one that I love. Francesca Battistelli. We have Chris Tomlin, who is an absolute favorite. Chris August, Big Daddy Weave. Bethel Music is another one. Let's see. Sade. I love Sade. Phillips, Craig, and Dean is another band that I like. But Other than that, like Kenny G is another one that I listen to all the time. I love Kenny G. So that's kind of what I listen to and what kind of gets me in the state. So you got to do what gets you at your peak state, because it's not going to be the same for all of us. So someone asked something about an Instagram question, and she says, do you send people a message that comment on your posts when you have a call to action that are in network marketing? I feel like some of them do it just to get what you have to say. I literally had to block a girl because she wants to just steal my order. Yeah, I don't message people that comment on my post on Instagram. So you have to message me, you have to text me the action post. You have to text me the keyword in order for me to message you back. So I don't reply to messages on Instagram. Recommendations for fixing codependency. Krista counseling, first of all. I went through 4 years of counseling because I was absolutely horrid codependent. Because of my childhood and everything else in my life made me super codependent. So to be who I am today, that's a huge win if you didn't know where I came from. So also a book that's called Boundaries is absolutely amazing too. I recommend that. I have negative business partners, family that bring me down daily. I see that I give them the control. No one can bring you down. That's not a thing. So you are in control of your emotions. You're in control of your emotional state. So to say someone is bringing me down is deflecting control to that person. So you are no longer in control of you and your actions and reactions. They are now. So that's exactly right. What other exercises that you do other than the two you showed us? Those are kind of my main two. I also power pose with my hands on my hips and my feet are spread and I'm looking up, kind of like Superwoman. So I do it like that too. And most of the time I'm listening to a Christian song that is going to just kind of empower me. And I feel like Overcomer by Mandisa. Girl, after you power pose to that song, you are going to go slay dragons, okay? That's how I feel about that. So Chrissy said, I want to know more about how you got your brain to stop running all night. I got an adjustment, Christy. My atlas was completely shifted to the side, so my brain was not functioning properly because my brain stem is right there. I used to be a chiropractic assistant, so I knew that that had to do with getting my atlas adjusted. So I went to my chiropractor and he adjusted it. Can you please repeat what you say to your kids when they're going through strong emotions? I let them know that it's okay to be angry or sad or whatever it is that they have going on. I always want to validate that the way they feel is okay. It is okay to feel like that. So we're not going to have in my home like, oh, it's not okay to feel like that. Why are you feeling like that? No, emotions are not okay. That is not healthy. That's not a healthy environment. So I want them to know that it is okay to feel the way that they feel, okay? But what it is not okay is to react out of those feelings. So we need to talk about it. That is the only way that we get to the bottom of how they're feeling. Anger is a secondary emotion, so there is a reason why they're angry. So they're not angry about nothing. There's a reason for it. So if you talk to them, you can get to the bottom of why. How do you know if you're operating at your peak state if you say you aren't signing people daily? You just know, to be honest with you. I know when I'm operating on my peak state and I know when I'm not. It is just something you know. So as soon as you start operating at your peak state, you realize when you're not. It's kind of those things that you have to experience it for yourself because it's going to look differently for you than it does for me. So when you actually are operating at your peak state, you're going to know when you're not. No, oh, the song by Mandisa is Overcomer. So if you listen to that song, it's incredible. Like the day that I walked a stage as $1 million earner, I'm gonna walk to this through the stage with that song. It's called Overcomer by Mandisa. What about being relatable with people, meeting them where they're at? Erica, that has nothing to do with being relatable or not relatable. I can assure you that a lot of people find me very relatable, but what I can tell you is that my emotional state isn't on check all the time. I don't need to be a train wreck to talk to a train wreck. So that makes no sense to me. I don't need to have an alcohol issue to talk to someone that has an alcohol issue. Your peak, operating out of your peak state has nothing to do with being relatable and not relatable. It has everything to do with you being in control of who you are and your emotional state. So Eric said, you know the verse, weep with those who weep, happy with those who are happy. Yeah, and there's another verse that says you need to become, you know, Paul became everything to everyone that he may win them over. So I understand that. But that's not, there's certain, like, I'm not going to a funeral and operate out of my peak state. But I'm also not at a funeral with my emotions running rampant and being codependent of everybody around me. So I'm very much in control of my emotional state, but I'm not power posing at a funeral. Like, that's just discernment. So if there's something like my best friend is having, you know, an emotional breakdown, I'm not power posing through that. Like, I've got to be there for her. But again, I'm in charge of my emotions. I'm in charge of my mental state and my emotional state. Nobody else is. Lydia, you experienced physical issues. Did you do more activities, motivational things to get us past the physical pain out of your mind? I did experience some physical issues, but it was not like physical pain. It was just my blood pressure would drop, and I mean, there was a lot of times that I just had to power through it, to be honest with you. And a lot of times that 99% of the times I just had to power through it because there was no stopping at the place that I was at. So there was a lot of, you know, relying on the things that were going to motivate me to stay in that place. And that was a daily thing for me. So you have to find out what motivates you, Michelle. And you need to hold on to that because when the going gets tough, you need to learn the art of self-motivation. Does raising your energy help with your peak performance or shifting my thoughts to power thoughts? Both. Both of them are going to help you with your peak performance. That is the key. Just changing your thoughts is not going to do it. And just changing the way your body functions, your energy and where that goes isn't going to do it. So it has to be a combination of both of them together to do that. So Julie said, I didn't realize that codependency until you said my actions depend on that person's action. So good to know. Going to work on that. Awesome, Julie. Is this group staying open after the 31st for review, or is it closing the 31st? We're going to leave it. This group stays open all of February. So I want to make sure that everybody gets everything in. So the last day of February, this group is going to close for review. So yes, we're going to leave it open all of February. So awesome. I love it. It was a pleasure hanging out with y'all tonight. I love teaching these things because these are things that I practice myself in the past year to, you know, be where I am today and operating out of my peak. And until I started understanding and putting these things into practice and operating out of my peak state, I did not become a consistent top enroller. I mean, just big numbers. And, you know, I've never looked back. I don't ever want to go to the place where I'm not in control of my emotional state. I'm not in control of my physical state. And I never want to get to the place that other people dictate that, because when that happens and when my negative thoughts start, you know, taking control, then I'm not operating out of my peak state. So I want to make sure that I'm always at my peak state, whether, you know, I'm just with my kids or I'm working the business, because at my peak state, this is where I function the best. This is the best me for my family, the best me for my husband, the best me for my children, and the best me for my team. So this isn't just for business. This is for yourself, for your family, to be a happier you. Like, who wants to go through life doubting themselves? Who wants to go through life struggling and not controlling their emotions, and your emotions are all over the place? And then, like, how many people do you know go on medication because of that? So they've never been taught that you can actually control those. So Nicole said, will this content be in the app as well? No, Nicole, actually the app is just my social media training. So the app goes over branding yourself. It goes over Instagram, Facebook. It has attraction marketing. So the app is more for someone that really doesn't know how to work, you know, network marketing through social media. That's what the app is for. So these are more of my coaching groups, not the app content. These are the kind of videos that we're going to be going over in my February group. So my coaching group, this is what I go over, because I think once a week we're going to have a live and everything else is going to be content. But I think this is super important to come alongside of you to help you succeed in network marketing, because you know already through my app that's launching soon how to work social media. But if you have all the tools and you don't connect the mindset and self-development with it, and you don't have someone that's coming alongside of you and empowering you, it's really difficult to make it. That was me, and I had to do that for myself. So I know how difficult it is to do it. So I will be doing a February group. So Julie said, any advice on dealing with a narcissist daily and being able to stay focused on me? Julie, that is one of the hardest things that you're going to learn, like, ever in life. But if you focus on you, and you're always focused on you and your actions and your reactions, and staying accountable to that, and making sure that you put boundaries up and that people's emotions are not affecting your decisions, you're going to find out that it's a lot easier to live with someone that is completely different than you, because they no longer control you emotionally. So work on you, sister, and everything else falls into place. So Amy says, so you must not always be in a peak state and you must get angry, etc. So when you're experiencing strong emotions for whatever reason, do you pause and get to the bottom of it, or how do you get back to feeling control of your emotional state? Here's the thing. Anger was given to you for a reason. There's righteous anger and there's foolish anger. So are you angry because there's an injustice happening, you know, in this country, in the world? Are you angry because little girls are being trafficked? Are you angry because, you know, orphans are being starved? What are you angry about? So you got to think about that, because there is a place and time where I will use my peak state to make sure that I fight for my convictions. There is a place for that. But are you reacting out of a comment that someone left on your post that doesn't even know you and really is irrelevant? So that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about operating at your peak state. Doesn't mean you bounce off rainbows and feed unicorns and you see little hearts going around all the time. That's not what your peak state is. Your peak state is you operating out of your emotional state that is completely controlled by you, not anybody else around you, not any circumstance around you, and you are doing absolutely the very best you can with what you got. In business, in life, in your marriage. That's what operating out of your peak state is. It isn't, let's sweep everything under the rug and let's not ever talk about anything. Like, that's not what that means. So if that's what you got out of the training, make sure that you, like, rewatch it, girlfriend, and then just absorb it and write some notes down and think about that, because that's not what we talked about. Nicole said, how do you get in the February group? What is the content again? The content is going to be more self-development, life coaching, stuff like that. I may put some tips in there to, about social media. It's not going to be social media geared because that's not what I teach to begin with. That's what the app is coming out for. But it's going to be more coaching. So for those I feel like, okay, I need trainings like this to get my mind, in the place that I need to be. I need someone to come alongside of me and kind of help me and train me when it comes to self-development and, mindset and all that stuff. That's what the February coaching is for. So I will have information on that on my wall. Yeah, I'll have it on my wall. So I hope you guys have an amazing night. I love you all, and I will see you soon.